Introduced in 1942, the Tiger I was arguably the most feared tank of World War II. Weighing 56 tons, for its time, it was one of the largest tanks on the battlefield, with its sheer size and presence creating an almost mythical-like aura. Equipped with the 8.8cm KWK-36 cannon, it was able to penetrate and destroy all Allied tanks on the battlefield. When it was introduced in 1942, at a range of 1,000 meters, it could penetrate 110mm of armor. It was lethal against Soviet T-34s, the US Sherman, and British Churchill tanks. The Tiger, for its size, had an impressive speed of 38 km an hour on roads, and 20 to 25 km an hour off-road. It featured a crew of 5, a commander, gunner, loader, driver, and radio operator, who also served as a machine gunner. And Tigers rarely operated alone, and were usually deployed in small elite units called Tiger battalions. Typically 10 to 14 tanks per company, often supported by other German tanks like the Panzer IVs. The Tiger quickly became a propaganda magnet for the Nazi Party, with it being featured heavily in German newsreels as a symbol of German superiority, with Hitler even praising it as a doomsday weapon. However, its fierce reputation far exceeded its actual battlefield impact, due to the relatively low production numbers. Only 1,347 were ever built. For comparison, nearly 6,000 Panzer IIIs and 8,500 Panzer IVs were built during the war. The Tiger was developed in response to the shortcomings of early German armor, which proved inadequate against Soviet and Allied armor. In the early war, German Panzer IIIs had a frontal armor of only 15 to 30mm, far thinner than the Soviet T-34's 45mm of sloped frontal armor. To maintain armored superiority, Germany needed a tank with significantly heavier firepower and stronger armor. The Soviet T-34, introduced in 1940, was a 45-ton medium tank, featuring sloped armor and a powerful 76.2mm cannon, capable of penetrating and destroying earlier Panzer III and Panzer IV tanks. Its combination of mobility, reliability, and ease of production shocked German high command, with Hitler even admitting that he had totally underestimated Soviet tank production. When the Germans examined captured T-34s, they realized just how effective its sloped armor proved, resulting in a need for a longer-ranged, more powerful German gun to restore dominance on the battlefield. Design of this vehicle began in 1941 as part of a competition between the German companies Henschel and Porsche, each tasked with creating a tank capable of beating the later Soviet armor. The Tiger was engineered to prioritize heavy armor, up to 100mm at the front, and a powerful 88mm cannon, ensuring it could engage and penetrate even the T-34's sloped armor at long range. Trials showed that the Tiger successfully combined devastating firepower with exceptionally strong armor, but these advantages came at the cost of limited mobility, frequent mechanical problems, and slow, complicated production, issues that were only partially improved in later production models. The Tiger first saw combat in 1942 around Leningrad and in North Africa, where it was used primarily as a breakthrough tank. Limited production meant that the Tigers were deployed as elite units rather than in large numbers, but their results were astounding. These tanks were easily able to destroy enemy armor at exceedingly long distances, causing chaos to Soviet tank formations. The Tiger was significantly larger and heavier than the T-34, and estimates say that for every one Tiger tank, it would take 4 T-34s to kill it. The Tiger was significantly larger and far better engineered. However, the T-34 thrived on mass production, ease of repair, and low maintenance. At typical engagement ranges, even the Sherman's powerful gun was largely ineffective against the Tiger's frontal armor, resulting in the harrowing statistic of 6 to 8 Sherman tanks destroyed for every Tiger lost. A single Tiger could wipe out an entire platoon of Shermans. Inside the tank, efficiency was crucial, with the ergonomics of the vehicle prioritizing loader and gunner comfort to maintain a rapid rate of fire. Every Tiger was equipped with an onboard radio, allowing for effective communication with other units. The Tiger was most effective in open terrain, such as plains and wide fields, where it could exploit its long-range gun, but its size and weight limited mobility in forests, urban environments, and muddy ground, making defensive positions ideal for maximizing its advantages. Allied troops closely studied, destroyed, and captured Tigers, with intelligence reports highlighting key weaknesses, such as high fuel consumption and mechanical complexity. Battlefield reports frequently exaggerated Tiger sightings, with the up-armored Panzer IVs and other German tanks often being misidentified as Tigers, creating a level of fear that was disproportionate to the Tigers' relatively small numbers on the battlefield. However, when Allied crews did face a Tiger, they wouldn't forget it. And many Allied crews overestimated the Tiger's effectiveness, and morale could drop even before contact was made. Word of mouth, battlefield rumors, and stories passed between crews, amplifying the Tiger's reputation, often terrifying tank crews before they even encountered one in combat. The Tiger excelled in a defensive role, frequently employing ambush tactics, using hull-down positions to stay hidden, whilst taking full advantage of its long-range gun, maximizing kill efficiency. From the commander's viewpoint, the Tiger's optics, including a 10 times magnification, allowed for excellent long-range spotting and target designation, while the gunner's sight, with a 2.5 to 5 times magnification, enabled precise aiming and engagement at extended distances. Its tall profile and thick armor allowed the crew, especially the commander, to observe the battlefield from a well-elevated position in relative safety. Weighing 56 tons, the Tiger was prone to bogging down in soft terrain, and its weight, combined with track design, limited mobility in winter conditions. The tank's complex drivetrain and suspension were prone to failure, and its Maybach engines required constant maintenance to remain operational. The Tiger's consumption, roughly 3 liters per kilometer on road, created a logistical strain that limited its operational range to about 120 to 150 kilometers in the field. Mechanical failures or fuel shortages often forced crews to abandon Tigers, and field repairs were extremely difficult, especially in the later stages of the war, due to the sheer size of the vehicle and limited access to recovery vehicles. The Tiger's large size required specialized flat cars for rail transport, limiting its mobility, and prevented rapid redeployment across the front. Tiger maintenance demanded highly trained technicians and a steady supply of spare parts, and late war shortages significantly reduced the tank's operational availability. The Sherman Firefly was a British Sherman variant with a powerful 76.2mm gun, capable of penetrating the Tiger's frontal armor at typical combat ranges. And with its introduction, the Tiger had finally met its match and could no longer rely solely on its impenetrable armor for its advantage. Tigers were especially vulnerable to bombing and strafing, particularly when immobilized, and Allied aircraft played a key role in neutralizing them in the late stages of the war. Instead of throwing waves of Sherman tanks toward the Tiger, Allies instead radioed in airstrikes to neutralize the threat. This became extremely common practice later on in the war. Once its weak points were understood and became part of the tank crew training program, Tigers were far more effectively neutralized as flanking maneuvers became standard. The Soviet IS-2 heavy tank, introduced in 1944, weighed 46 tons and mounted a 122mm gun with thick frontal armor, giving it the ability to penetrate the Tiger's armor at long distances, effectively eliminating the Tiger's advantage. Of the 1,347 Tiger I tanks produced, around 1,100 were lost due to combat or mechanical failure, with losses far outpacing German production capacities. The Tiger's dominance was temporary, but extreme, and for a time, this tank was a death sentence to any Allied crew who were unfortunate enough to come across one. However, by the end of the war, and the mass production of good enough Allied tanks meant that despite its superior firepower and armor, the Tiger simply couldn't compete with the sheer numbers and mobility of Allied armor forces. Thank you for watching our first documentary. This video took a very long time to produce, so if you did enjoy it, please be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you.